The second mouse from Nyfter just dropped, and it's the brand's own version, or well, a clone of the popular Vaxi NP01S shape. But in my personal opinion, it is more than that. The contents are pretty minimal. We have a braided USB Type-C cable, the 4K dongle, an extra set of skates, a velvet bag, and of course the mouse. Here we do have the Nyfter Ergolight 4K, and I've been given the choice out of the color of black, white, and mint. Now me personally, I wanted something more bold, so of course I chose the mint colorway. Pitting the LT against the NP01S, we can see a lot of differences in the physical department. Now with Ergo mice, the left side has these big flare-outs that roll out towards your thumb. The ELT does it pretty well compared to the NP01S, which I felt was way too aggressive for my personal taste, as it does press against the joint of my thumb instead of allowing room for the base of my thumb to comfortably wrap around. The ELT has a softer curve, making it less aggressive feeling, but it is the slightest bit of pressure on the base of my thumb still. Now from the side, the shape looks basically the same. The ELT is slightly taller in the front, rounding out better to the back side, and the NP01S is a low profile shape at the front, peaking where the ELT's hump is, and more aggressively ending in the back. From the front, there's quite a bit of a different look from the ELT. Here we can see the main clicks are more so resembling the style of a G Pro X, but they end up being more aggressively rounded outwards with the slightest, almost non-existent finger grooves, whereas the NP01S has the same linear slant as the G Pro X. But on top of that, the ELT has less tapered sides, being a result from raising the front of the mouse the slightest bit up and changing the hump style, leaving more room to grip onto. The left side, just like the ELT in general, has less aggressive sides, making my use of pincer claw more comfortable, unlike the NP01S. The main clicks are tactile and crisp, making use of the standard 1.0 blue shell pink dots. But the post travel for me is an issue. Especially when spamming, that rebound back is slow, resulting in an overall lazy feeling click experience. Now the side buttons are okay. As most of the mice out there, they do make use of the 1.0 black shell white dots. It's a switch that's tactile but can lean to the heavier side for some people's taste. But the physical buttons themselves feel easy to actuate. But just like the M1 and M2 clicks, they do have a bit of post travel. More so the backside button, as it can almost mush into the shell. Now I do like them more compared to the NP01S. They do have a nice gap between them, a bigger size and a better curve, giving a more comfortable distance to reach towards, but that's just in most cases. I say that as full-on contact with the back part of the hump in claw and palm will result in a more difficult travel distance to reach to the backside button. Anything else like pincer claw and fingertip makes the experience for my hand size even more enjoyable and easier to make use of all the buttons on the mouse. The scroll wheel is on the slight heavier, more tactile side, having more defined steps, which I do come to enjoy. It's not too heavy. And with the dense and grippy rubber scroll wheel, it makes the feeling more locked in as your finger doesn't slip around at all. But the middle mouse button click itself is quite hefty and can be a bit tougher to actuate. On the bottom, I did have the full skates, ones that are 100% virgin grade PTFE, resembling the Vanza mouse skates. They were very nice, but I obviously had to remove them to get into the insides of the mouse to check things out. But also on the bottom we do have the power switch and the DPI button. It's pretty standard stuff. The last thing on the exterior is the coating, of course. And considering it comes from the same factory as Lamzu mice, you'd think the coating would be the same, but that is not the case. It's pretty smooth and slightly grippy compared to the Thorn being a bit drier and slightly textured. It's nothing too fancy, but thankfully I don't feel the need to ever put grip tape on it. The internals are pretty straightforward. We do have a Pixart 3395 sensor with a Nordic 52840 MCU, going hand in hand to give us polling rates up to 4000 Hz. And during my test on the X-Lab, I've gotten impressive figures reaching around 0.767 milliseconds click latency, but that is only achievable by changing the out-of-the-box settings. Unfortunately, they don't make use of a WebDriver, but rather a software in which you can change the debounce time. Setting it to 0 does give us less input latency. We can also set the DPI stages, but I like to delete them all except for one just because I only use 1600 DPI. The polling rate can be changed from 125 Hz all the way up to 4000 Hz. A peak performance toggle, which just allows the sensor to hit its maximum performance, which I'm assuming would result in less battery life. There are also choices for the sensor to have ripple control, angle snapping, and motion sync. Lift off distance, which I always keep at 2mm being the highest. We also have DPI lighting effects, a macros tab, and lastly the extra settings tab, giving us the option to update, repair the dongle, sleep mode, and a long distance mode to boost the distance and increase the anti-interference against other conflicting signals. And the most important of the whole mouse, the weight comes in at 52 grams. The mouse is really nice, and me personally I think it is a better version of the NP01S, but it does come with its own fair share of things that I needed to address to the company directly just for their future mice releases. But out of everything, the biggest conflict is going to be the price of this mouse. Now unfortunately the Ergolight is going to set you back 120 euros. And that's to do with Germany's higher import rates and also logistical things, and also their wages being quite a bit higher. So that is honestly just a massive bummer. But also interestingly so, it does come in cheaper than the NP01S. But regardless of all that, I think this is a mouse that I can definitely recommend people if you're originally looking for an NP01S. But that's all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, take care, and peace.